Imagine witnessing the final moments of a loved one, those fleeting seconds where life's meaning becomes crystal clear. Today, we're stepping into a story that transcends life and death, exploring what truly matters when the journey ends. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll see life through a whole new lens, and you'll want to share this with someone you care about. If this resonates with you, tap the like button, hit subscribe, and leave us a comment below about a memory that has stayed with you forever. Now, let's journey into this profound tale. David lay in a quiet hospital room, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. The heart monitor's steady beeping was slowing, and the medical staff had retreated to the periphery, giving his family time to whisper soft farewells. His daughter, Miriam, sat close, gently holding his frail hand. The thin curtains filtered midday sunlight into gentle beams that touched his face, highlighting the profound peace that had settled over him. Though pain had once etched lines across his forehead, now a calm acceptance smoothed them away. His son, Jonathan, stood near the window, struggling to contain quiet tears while his wife and grandchildren lingered silently, their presence a testament to love. In these final moments, David's mind drifted between worlds. He recalled long-ago summers in fields of golden wheat, the laughter of children echoing under a warm sky. He remembered the scent of fresh-baked bread in his mother's kitchen, the crunch of autumn leaves underfoot, the feeling of holding his newborn granddaughter for the first time. Every memory slipped through him like a gentle stream washing away fear and regret. He sensed that something extraordinary waited just beyond the threshold. He felt a gentle tug, not physical, but spiritual, pulling him onward. The sounds in the room grew distant, as if muffled by thick velvet curtains. He heard Miriam whisper, "We love you, Dad," and he tried to squeeze her hand one last time. The world began to dim, the light fading gently from his vision. Yet within this darkness a spark kindled. A profound hush fell upon his senses, and as his final breath escaped, he knew that what came next was not an end but a beginning. A strange calmness enveloped David as his final heartbeat faded. For a moment, he sensed nothing but emptiness, a quiet hush unlike any silence he had known. Suddenly, a soft glow emerged at the edges of his consciousness. In that glow, familiar faces appeared, faces from long ago. His parents, who had passed decades before, stepped forward as if waiting in a dreamlike twilight. They were young, vibrant, smiling in a way that said they had never truly left. Beside them stood his brother, and beyond, grandparents he had never met in life but recognized instantly. These souls did not speak, yet their presence was a balm. He felt their love as a gentle warmth, pulsing in the quiet darkness. It dawned upon David that these visitors were not illusions. Instead, they were guides, shimmering lights of memory and kinship. He remembered distant stories told in Scripture, passages hinting that those who depart before us remain alive in God's domain. Now, here they were, living proof that death could not sever ties of love. He moved toward them, though he had no body in the familiar sense. The quiet hospital room he just left seemed far away, reduced to a faint impression. These departed loved ones beckoned him forward, as if leading him along a hidden path he'd never glimpsed before. Their expressions held no sorrow, only gentle encouragement. In their eyes, he saw reflection, acceptance, and joy. Suddenly, he understood. Death was not a barren void. It was a threshold. He would not cross it alone. By their side, he felt an unfolding peace, as if passing through a door into morning light after a long, dark night. As David drifted closer to these radiant beings, he sensed a curious detachment from all he had left behind. If he reached back in thought, he could recall the hospital, the bed, and even his old body. But somehow, none of it mattered now. A grand truth whispered through him. Material things, houses, cars, titles, possessions, had never been true treasures. He realized this with crystalline clarity. What could gold matter now in this place of soft light and loving presence? In his earthly life, he had worked diligently, struggled to ensure security for his family, and sometimes worried ceaselessly over finances. He now saw those concerns as distant echoes. He understood that what truly mattered was the love he had shared, the kindness he had offered, the gentle words spoken when another's heart needed comfort. He saw these intangible treasures shining like gems beyond measure, illuminating his spirit with quiet pride. There was no regret at leaving behind the possessions accumulated over a lifetime. Instead, he felt relieved, liberated from burdens that had once weighed heavily upon him. A passage from Scripture drifted into his awareness. We brought nothing into this world, and we can take nothing out. The truth of this resonated deeply, as if he had known it all along, but had only now come to fully understand. He realized that each kind act, each moment of compassion, had woven a tapestry of spiritual wealth now gently wrapped around him. As the soft shapes of his forebears guided him forward, he embraced this new freedom. He carried no suitcases, no baggage of regret or unfulfilled ambition. Instead, he carried only the essence of who he had become, pure and open to the next step. Thus unburdened, he moved forward into a realm of deeper understanding. In this strange new existence, David became aware of himself hovering gently above a familiar scene. A hospital room. He observed it from a vantage point near the ceiling, disembodied but utterly conscious. Below, he saw a pale, motionless figure in a bed. It took him a moment to recognize the still form as his own earthly body. He watched his daughter lean forward, pressing her cheek against his lifeless hand. He saw Jonathan at the window, head bowed, shoulders trembling. His wife stood beside the bed, tears slipping silently down her face. The nurses stepped in, quiet and respectful, adjusting monitors and removing tubes. The entire scene carried a solemn grace, as if time itself had slowed to honor the passing of a soul. To see himself from this perspective surprised him less than he might have imagined. There was no fear, only fascination and empathy. He sensed their grief as if it were his own sorrow returned to him softened. He felt a deep love for each person in the room. He wanted to reassure them, whispering that he was safe, unbound by pain or fear. Yet he had no voice in the familiar sense. Still, he tried to convey comfort through a thought, a gentle intention, though he could not know if they sensed it. He hoped that some quiet whisper of peace would settle in their hearts. He remembered the words of an old psalm, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." Now he understood. Even separated from his body, he had nothing to fear. He hovered there a moment longer, witnessing their love and grief, before feeling an irresistible pull guiding him onward, away from that tender earthly farewell. Carried by an unseen current, David drifted closer to each loved one. He did not have arms, yet he felt he could embrace them. He did not have a tongue, yet he could form silent words of comfort, love, and farewell. He lingered first by Miriam's side, cherishing her courage. He poured gratitude into the spaces around her, hoping she might feel his love like a warm hand on her shoulder. Then he circled gently around his wife, whose heartbreak was more profound than any he had witnessed in life. They had shared decades of laughter and challenges. Now, in her sorrow, he yearned to tell her that love endures. He imagined placing a soft kiss upon her brow, letting her know that though his body had failed, their bond would never break. He whispered soundlessly that he would remain alive in her memories, in the lessons they learned together. Finally, he approached Jonathan, the child who had once stood bravely at David's knee, learning to ride a bicycle, then becoming a man. Jonathan's tears flowed quietly, his shoulders shaking. David willed comfort into his son's heart, assuring him that life would go on, that he would find strength and direction, that David's departure would not leave him alone. The bonds of family and faith would guide him. He sensed no limit to his capacity for love and encouragement. In life, he had been bound by words and circumstances, often unsure of how to express his deepest feelings. Now, in this liberated state, he could pour forth love like sunlight. He knew that these unspoken farewells might echo softly in their dreams, or manifest as moments of unexpected calm. With this last, silent benediction given, he followed the current onward, gently drifting from the familiar room, drawn away from the hospital room, David sensed that he still hovered close to the world he had known. Some subtle tether allowed him to drift beyond those walls. Guided by intention or memory, he recalled loved ones scattered across towns and cities. His cousin Adam, who had not been present at the bedside, slept now in a distant home, unaware that David had passed. David felt a gentle impulse. He could visit Adam to say goodbye. With an effortless shift, he found himself in a quiet bedroom illuminated by moonlight filtering through curtains. Adam lay sleeping, brow furrowed as though troubled by distant dreams. David's presence approached silently, sending a ripple of calm across the room. He recalled how, in life, people sometimes spoke of feeling the presence of departed loved ones at unexpected moments. Now he understood the truth behind these phenomena. His spirit could brush gently against sleeping minds, planting seeds of peace. He hovered near the bed, focusing his love and good wishes into Adam's dreams. As David did so, Adam's face relaxed, the tension in his features easing into a gentle calm. David imagined whispering, "I am at peace. Thank you for your love and friendship." Though Adam would not remember this encounter clearly upon waking, he might recall a sense of comfort, a fleeting vision of David smiling warmly. David felt no urgency now. He sensed that time flowed differently. He could visit others, offering them quiet reassurances. But he also understood he could not linger indefinitely. A soft, insistent pull beckoned him onward. He had said his farewells, delivered comfort as best he could in these subtle ways. Now the path forward awaited him, a journey he sensed would lead him ever deeper into truth and grace. As David moved onward, he felt a shift. He was entering a space where scenes from his life began to flicker and stream past him. It was as if he were a traveler standing in the center of a grand, circular hall lined with countless mirrors, each reflecting a different moment. Instead of seeing them as flat images, he felt them, the sights, sounds, and emotions of his past drifting around him. He saw himself as a boy playing beneath an oak tree, his mother calling him inside for supper. He felt the warmth of that day's sunlight again, smelled the grass, and tasted the innocence of childhood. He glimpsed his first day at school, the nerves and excitement. He watched himself as a young man courting his wife, her laughter bright as a bell on a crisp morning. He witnessed the birth of his children and felt anew the tears of joy and awe. He saw minor struggles and great triumphs parade before him. Alongside the cherished memories, he also faced painful moments. He recalled arguments, regrets, and times when he had failed to show kindness. There were awkward silences and wounded hearts he had not comforted. Yet in this place, there was no condemnation. Each memory presented itself honestly, allowing him to understand the full tapestry of his life. He recognized that both joy and sorrow, success and failure, had shaped him. As he watched this life review unfold, he sensed a gentle guidance behind it, as if an unseen narrator encouraged him to draw lessons from every moment. He realized that everything he had experienced, both the bitter and the sweet, had contributed to his growth. He stood in silent amazement, immersed in the grand story of his own existence. David's gaze drifted across moments he had once buried in regret. He saw himself slamming a door in anger years ago, a tearful friend left behind. He observed times when pride or fear had prevented him from speaking kindness. Yet in this new perspective, he felt neither shame nor blame. Instead, he experienced understanding and compassion. He realized that in these difficult moments, he had been learning. Each misstep taught him about empathy, about the pain others feel. Each failure was like a forge's heat, refining his character. With each painful memory, he felt a tenderness rise within him, a willingness to forgive himself. He understood that this was not about punishment, but about coming to terms with all he had been. He whispered a silent apology into the ether. "I am sorry for when I hurt others. I hope you found healing. I pray you saw my remorse. If not in life, then now in the truth of eternity." As he acknowledged these dark corners of his past, he sensed them integrating into a larger understanding. Without fear, he examined them, then released them, allowing them to transform into wisdom. Perhaps this was the purpose of this life review, to illuminate the shadows so the soul could embrace the totality of its journey. Emotions fluttered around him, but no sorrow lingered long. Every memory found a place, each one teaching him something essential. He became aware that the presence behind this review, the gentle narrator, was neither judge nor jury. It was more like a loving guide, helping him decode his own story. He felt renewed humility, a gratitude for all that had shaped him. Even the painful chapters had purpose, forging greater understanding and compassion that would serve him now and forever. The sequence of memories shifted, and David experienced the gentle glow of love poured forth throughout his life. There were countless small gestures, a comforting hug offered to someone grieving, a hot meal shared with a neighbor in need, patient words spoken to his children during anxious evenings. He saw how these moments, though mundane at the time, shone like stars against a dark sky. Each act of kindness carried a secret brightness. He realized that love was the true currency of existence. It wasn't measured in grand declarations, but in subtle mercies and everyday compassion. Standing within this panorama of his life, he saw that love had always been the gravitational force that held him and others together. It was the real treasure he carried now. He watched himself in a quiet memory, cradling his newborn granddaughter, marveling at the miracle of life. He remembered teaching Miriam how to ride her first bicycle, holding the handlebars steady until she found her balance. He felt again the warmth of sitting beside his wife on the porch, sharing silence and companionship as the sun dipped below the horizon. In these tender scenes, he understood that love endures beyond death. Each loving bond was a bridge extending into the infinite. As he reflected on Scripture's words, "Love never fails," he felt them resonate with divine truth. He knew now that every gesture of love, no matter how small, was recorded in a timeless ledger that death could not erase. This realization soothed him. The hardships of life, the possessions he left behind, the ambitions and failures, they all faded into irrelevance compared to the legacy of love. He stood amidst these gleaming memories, grateful and certain that love was the language of eternity. As the life review faded, David found himself drifting into a realm filled with indescribable radiance. There was a soft, encompassing glow ahead, intense yet soothing, brighter than any earthly sun but gentle, never blinding. He felt drawn toward it, as though it were a distant shore he had always been meant to reach. This light did not feel foreign. Its warmth carried a sensation of homecoming. He thought of verses he'd read, "God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all." Was he now approaching the very source of that promise? As he moved closer, the boundaries of time and space seemed to blur. He felt both small and immense, a single soul cherished in an infinite cosmos. In the past, he might have feared such a thing, but now no fear stirred within him. The love and understanding he had gained prepared him for this moment. Entering that light seemed as natural as breathing. He considered the many near-death stories he had once heard, accounts of tunnels and lights, of indescribable peace. Now he, too, experienced this reality. He understood that this brilliant glow signified more than just a place. It was the threshold of a higher reality, a step into realms beyond mortal comprehension. As he floated closer, the light revealed subtle landscapes, rolling meadows of infinite depth and color, gentle hills crowned with flowers that shimmered like jewels. He saw no sun, no moon, and yet light bathed every surface, emanating from all directions. The air, if it could be called that, was calm and pure. It felt like stepping into a painting crafted by divine hands, each brushstroke filled with reverence. David knew his journey was reaching a place where earthly definitions dissolved into luminous truth. Entering deeper into this luminous realm, David found that solid definitions of place fell away. He moved not with steps, but with intention. He saw landscapes that seemed woven of light and grace, a gentle forest where leaves shimmered like living crystals, a quiet stream that emitted a soft melodic hum. It all seemed familiar, as though it had always existed within his heart. Was this heaven? He remembered reading that, "In my Father's house there are many mansions." Perhaps he now strolled among them, not in physical form but in pure essence. There were no borders, No locked doors. Everything was open, welcoming. He sensed other presences nearby, gentle souls moving through these spaces. Some were faint silhouettes, others more defined. He felt their joy, their curiosity, their serenity. One figure approached more clearly, a friend who had died years before. Instantly, David recognized the beloved soul, though the friend now appeared radiant and whole, free of the ailments that once afflicted him. They did not speak in words, yet understanding passed between them effortlessly. The friend's welcoming smile told David, "You are safe. You belong." As he ventured onward, he noticed that even the air was alive with gentle harmonies. He could sense truths about life and death singing through the ethers. Nothing was hidden. Here, knowledge flowed as naturally as breath. Memories blended seamlessly with understanding. The presence of God infused every particle, every reflection of light. A profound peace settled over him. He realized that any fear of judgment or isolation had been misplaced. Instead, he felt a grand inclusion, as if he were a cherished note in a divine symphony. He realized now that this journey was about shedding old limitations and discovering the fullness of life beyond life. David's friend guided him through fields of tranquil light until they reached a place like a garden of truth. Here, forms were not solid but suggestions of perfect archetypes. The idea of a flower, so pure that every earthly bloom was a shadowed imitation. Whispered voices, kind and wise, drifted as if carried by a celestial breeze. Among these voices, David discerned a presence, a guide, an angelic being who approached with kindness. This being radiated a love that dwarfed any human language. Without words, it explained that David had entered a higher plane, a station of learning and reunion. He sensed that countless souls arrived here, guided gently by such beings, allowed time to understand their lives, their growth, and their place in the grand tapestry. The guide showed him scenes beyond his personal life, hints of the vast interplay of souls, learning from each other across generations and lifetimes. David understood now that Earth's struggles and joys were not random. They were opportunities, lessons crafted within God's grand design, allowing souls to refine themselves like clay on a potter's wheel. He felt a new humility and awe. The complexity of existence was beyond measure. He recalled Scripture's gentle reassurances that angels ministered to humans, guiding them. Now he stood face to face with one of these servants of the divine, feeling gratitude and reverence. The guide's presence conveyed, "Here you learn, here you heal, and here you grow. No one is lost. Each soul's journey is respected. You have done well, and much awaits." Tears of joy, if such a thing could exist in this form, welled within David's awareness. He realized that the love he now felt was the heart of all creation, and that his journey toward understanding was only just beginning. What's one memory you'd want to relive if you were at the edge of life? David's story reminds us how small moments, like the sound of laughter or the smell of fresh bread, can hold immense meaning. Share in the comments a simple memory that has shaped you. You might just inspire someone else watching this. As David absorbed the guide's silent wisdom, he understood that truth here was not delivered in stern lectures, but in gentle revelations. The angel did not say, "You must believe," but instead offered glimpses of the underlying harmony that supported all existence. David saw threads of shimmering light weaving between souls, connecting everyone. In these luminous visions, he recognized core principles: compassion, forgiveness, humility, and faith. He understood now what Scripture meant by God is love. This love was not a passive emotion. It was the fabric of reality, the heartbeat of creation. Every soul was born from it and returned to it. David recalled times on earth when he questioned life's purpose, moments of despair when suffering seemed senseless. Now he saw that even suffering could lead to spiritual maturity, making souls more empathetic and resilient. He remembered verses, "All things work together for good." Now it made perfect sense. Every life's pattern was a unique journey of learning and remembering love. The angel's gentle presence was like a patient teacher, allowing David to discover truths at his own pace. In these revelations, he found no dogma, only a deep resonance that filled him with certainty. The complexities of different faiths, philosophies, and human beliefs melted into a single truth. All paths, sincerely followed, sought this divine love. He felt an inner expansion, as if his soul were unfolding like a flower long kept in darkness, no longer bound by earthly limitations. He understood that life's purpose was always about growth, connection, and reflection of the divine light. His heart, if he could call it that now, overflowed with gratitude. He had come home, not to a place, but to the truth that love and God were one and the same. Within this radiant realm, David sensed the presence of other souls he had known. Some were family members who had passed before him. Others were friends or mentors. They emerged not as phantoms, but as vibrant beings. Each carried a unique glow, a signature that David recognized instantly. They did not rush toward him, but greeted him gently, allowing him to adjust to this higher reality. They smiled as if to say, "We've been waiting, but there's no hurry here." He felt their love wrap around him like a warm quilt on a cold evening. He realized they had never truly left him. They had simply stepped beyond the veil of mortal perception. In their presence, David remembered shared stories, long-forgotten conversations, laughter, songs sung under starry skies. He understood now that these connections were never lost. Love formed eternal bonds that time and death could not sever. One by one, they approached, radiating familiarity and goodwill. A beloved aunt who taught him kindness by example. A grandfather who once told him stories of faith and fortitude. A childhood friend who died too young. Each soul's essence shimmered with purity and joy. There were no grudges here, no misunderstandings. Everything was seen in the clear light of truth. He realized that in life, he had sometimes feared what lay beyond death, anxious that he might lose those he cherished. Now, he saw that separation was an illusion. He had found them again, and not just as memories, but as living, loving presences. Their reunion was gentle, profound, and eternal. Together, they formed a circle of love that reminded him that every relationship in life planted a seed that would bloom again in this eternal garden of souls. Though the reunion filled him with joy, David recognized that part of himself still reflected on earth. He could almost sense the sorrow of those he had left behind. Miriam, Jonathan, and his wife grieving near his empty bed. Yet now, with this expanded vision, he understood that grief was the price of love, and love was worth that price. In this realm, he learned that sorrow on earth was not an absolute darkness. Instead, it was like clouds passing before the sun, temporary shadows that could never extinguish the underlying radiance. Just as he had found his departed loved ones here, he knew that those still on earth were still connected to him by threads of love. They could not see him, but someday they would join him in this place, and their hearts would burst with recognition. The sadness he felt for their pain was balanced by a new certainty that no love is lost. He knew they would find comfort over time, that signs and whispers of his continued existence might seep into their dreams, their quiet moments. He prayed, in the language of the Spirit, that their sorrow would one day transform into a gentle remembrance. Surrounded by these souls who had traveled this path before him, David saw that every human emotion, even grief, was part of the soul's education. Earthly suffering was not meaningless. It deepened compassion and built empathy. Those who mourned learned to love more deeply. So, while he wished he could spare his family all pain, he understood that their journey was theirs to walk, and that his love, now transcendent, would never abandon them. With this understanding, he embraced the eternal truth. Love outlasts sorrow, and death cannot separate those who are bound by its gentle grace. As David settled into this understanding, he reflected on his earthly life in full. He saw it now as a grand classroom. Every trial he endured, every triumph he celebrated, every laughter and tear contributed to his soul's evolution. The angel's revelations had shown that nothing was wasted, nothing accidental. Even moments he thought meaningless had served a purpose, gently sculpting his spirit. He remembered doubts that had plagued him. Why had he faced certain hardships? Why had some prayers seemed unanswered? Now he saw that growth often came through challenges. like a seed pushing through soil to find sunlight. His soul had pushed through struggles to find understanding and empathy. He considered the notion of destiny and free will. He realized that while he had been free to choose his actions, there was always a divine intelligence weaving possibilities together. Each choice he made opened new paths of learning. He saw his life as a rich tapestry, every thread contributing to a final pattern of wisdom and grace. In this insight, he found immense peace. The questions that once vexed him dissolved into gentle gratitude for the design of existence. He understood that every life, no matter how ordinary it seemed, was a masterpiece of learning crafted by the soul and guided by divine love. With a humble heart, he thanked God and the angels for this understanding. He felt no pride, only reverence for the complexity and perfection of this spiritual education. As he let these truths settle within him, he felt his being grow lighter, as if acknowledging truth was itself a form of ascension. Now, free from earthly confusion, he prepared to take the next step, deeper into the light, ready to discover even greater mysteries. As he drifted further, David revisited the illusions of earthly life. He saw how he had once measured success by material gain or social recognition. Now these seemed as hollow as echoes in an empty hall. He realized people often chase temporary achievements, hoping to fill a longing that only spiritual truth can satisfy. In this luminous realm, he understood that the treasures of the world, houses, wealth, prestige, were like children's toys left behind in a playroom when they must finally go home. He could see that even earthly time, so precious and finite, was but a moment in eternity. Humans often became lost in illusions, forgetting the eternal realities of love and faith. He smiled gently at this realization. It was not condemnation, but a kind awakening. Earthly life was designed this way. Souls would experience illusions, test their values, and learn to discern what truly mattered. Through this discernment, they would discover the eternal principles of compassion, humility, and spiritual devotion. He remembered the words, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul?" Now these words glowed with vibrant truth. Gaining the world brought no lasting fulfillment. The soul's joy came from alignment with divine love and from growth in understanding. He felt gratitude for the lessons, for the illusions that had once enthralled him. They had forced him to choose between shallow pursuits and deeper meaning. By choosing love and integrity more often than not, he had prepared himself for this gentle awakening. All illusions now fell away, leaving him weightless, honest, and free. He embraced this spiritual clarity and let it refine him further, guiding him closer to the source of all that is true. As David ventured on, he perceived other souls arriving, each welcomed into their own version of paradise. He saw countless variations of bliss. Some found themselves in landscapes reminiscent of their fondest dreams, gardens, libraries of infinite wisdom, lakes under starlit skies. Others reunited with their own families of light, or engaged in dialogues with angels. No two experiences were identical, yet all shared an undercurrent of peace and understanding. He realized that heaven, or the afterlife, was not a static place but a living experience shaped by each soul's essence and growth. Within this fluid reality, God's love manifested uniquely for everyone. He watched as newly arrived souls emerged from confusion or fear into clarity. Guided gently by comforting presences, he saw them undergo their own life reviews, shedding old burdens and discovering their spiritual wealth. Some wept with joy, others sang wordlessly, but all found healing. These personal heavens intertwined seamlessly. No fences or barriers divided souls. Instead, a collective harmony allowed infinite individuality and unity. David marveled at the complexity and perfection of this design. Souls who needed rest found quiet corners of tranquility, while those eager to learn ventured into luminous halls of knowledge. Compassionate beings offered guidance, but no force compelled anyone. Free will remained, though now divested of ignorance and fear. He recognized that no soul was lost. Even those who had wandered far from love and life were given opportunities to awaken, understand, and heal. He thanked God silently for this mercy and inclusiveness. Watching these processes unfold added layers to his appreciation of divine wisdom. Just as he had discovered truth, so would every soul in their own time. In that understanding, he felt his own spirit expand with reverence and delight. As he continued, David approached what felt like a threshold, an archway composed of glowing crystal and light. Beyond it, he sensed an even greater presence, a deeper immersion into the divine. He understood that this gateway symbolized another stage of his journey. He felt no anxiety, only a quiet awe. Crossing this threshold, he found himself in a place where the very air was alive with divine song. He saw no source of the music, yet it resonated in his core. Voices he could not name merged into a single chorus, praising creation and celebrating the eternal flow of life. In that music, he felt embraced by infinite love. Before him, a vast plain spread out, shimmering with gentle colors unknown to earthly senses. In the distance, he glimpsed what might have been a throne or a center of radiance, though it was not a literal chair but a focal point of divine presence. An angelic figure beckoned him onward, silently encouraging him to approach. He realized he was nearing an encounter that would surpass all previous revelations. He remembered reading of saints and mystics who spoke of union with God, of seeing the divine face to face. Now, he understood their words on a new level. He felt a rising anticipation, not like nervousness, but like a child about to embrace a beloved parent after a long absence. There were no instructions, no formalities. He was simply drawn forward by love, as naturally as a moth to flame. Except here, there was no danger, only fulfillment. He paused one last time to appreciate all he had learned, all he had forgiven and released. Prepared, he drifted forward, eager and reverent, ready to step into the ultimate mystery. Passing through the archway, David felt as though he entered the heart of a symphony. Angelic beings, more numerous and diverse than he had imagined, moved around him with grace and purpose. Their forms varied. Some appeared human-like, others more abstract, composed of swirling lights and gentle tones. Yet each radiated kindness and wisdom. They did not crowd him, but allowed him to sense their presence. Communication here was telepathic and instantaneous, a sharing of feelings and insights more profound than any speech. He sensed their joy at his arrival, not because he was special above others, but because every soul's homecoming was cause for celebration. He felt attuned to the harmony around him. If he focused, he could hear prayers rising from earth, hopeful whispers of the living seeking comfort, guidance, healing. The angels, he perceived, tended these prayers with tender care, channeling grace back to earth. He marveled at this interplay. It was as if heaven and earth were engaged in a constant dance, exchanging energies of love and faith. In this holy sphere, he realized that separation was an illusion. All souls, angels, and creations were connected in a single divine ecosystem. He felt linked not only to his loved ones and ancestors, but to all humanity, all life. There was no other, only facets of one grand soul. As he comprehended this unity, he saw that words from Scripture, about angels rejoicing over each soul saved, about God's infinite care, were literal truths. The angels were living embodiments of divine compassion, tirelessly serving creation. With this understanding, he moved forward, guided by a gentle inner compass. He knew he would soon meet God, or merge with that ultimate presence. His heart overflowed with gratitude, for never had he imagined such beauty or goodness could be so real, so immediate. Now David sensed a presence beyond all others, an overwhelming love that dwarfed even the angel's radiance. It was as if he stood at the center of all creation's heartbeat. He could not see God's form, for God transcended form, but he sensed an intelligence and warmth more profound than any parent's embrace. This presence did not speak in words, yet communicated perfectly. David felt known, entirely and intimately. Every memory, thought, and feeling he had ever had was transparent before this divine presence. Yet he felt no shame, only an understanding that he was loved beyond measure. God knew him, understood his strengths, his weaknesses, his aspirations, his fears, and loved him purely. In that love, David realized that all questions he once posed about suffering, injustice, confusion found resolution. The presence conveyed that each soul's journey contributed to a grand tapestry of learning and elevation. God experienced through them, cherished them, and guided them gently. If David had tears in this state, he would have wept with joy. He perceived a gentle reassurance that no soul was ever truly lost. That love enveloped the darkest corners of existence. In God's knowing, David felt complete. He realized he did not have to earn this love. It was his birthright, as it was for every soul. This revelation expanded within him, dissolving any lingering doubt. Scripture's words flickered in his mind. For in him we live and move and have our being. He understood now that this was literal. God was the ground of all existence, the source and the destination. Moved by an irresistible longing, David drew closer, eager to fully merge with this love, to lose himself and become one with the divine essence. Drawn into God's presence, David experienced a union surpassing all human understanding. He no longer felt separate or alone. Instead, his consciousness expanded, embracing truths more immense than galaxies. He understood that creation was an ongoing expression of God's love, and that every soul's journey contributed to the collective growth of divine experience. He realized that his life on earth, with all its complexity, had been a single chapter in an eternal story. From this vantage point, he saw countless worlds, countless eras, innumerable souls, each refining and enriching the tapestry of existence. All these experiences flowed into God's heart. In this union, David perceived that divine love was infinite and unconditional. There were no favorites, no chosen few. Every soul mattered equally. The human mind once struggled with that concept, but now it was self-evident. Just as the sun shines on all, God's love radiates universally. He recognized that human languages and religions had tried to describe this reality, often imperfectly. Yet beneath all traditions lay the same truth: love, compassion, and the seeking of understanding were paths to God. All sincere seekers would find their way eventually. In this intimate communion, David asked no questions, for he already knew. God's presence filled him with an all-encompassing peace that made curiosity and doubt unnecessary. He simply experienced being fully loved and known. It was more than ecstasy. It was completeness. He understood now that love, knowledge, and growth continued beyond death, that this luminous existence was not a static end, but a harmonious eternity where souls evolve, celebrate, and create, merged with God's presence. He felt the tenderness of a creator who cherished every laugh, every tear. This was the truth he had yearned for. And here, he found it in perfect abundance. In the embrace of divine love, David's awareness expanded further, allowing him to contemplate suffering and hardship from a cosmic vantage. He understood that while pain felt overwhelming on earth, it served a higher purpose. It forged empathy, taught compassion, and made love's value undeniable. He remembered moments of his own suffering, losses, disappointments, fears. From Earth's perspective, they seemed cruel and arbitrary. But here, he saw that every challenge had inspired growth. Suffering was not inflicted capriciously. It emerged from the interplay of free will, consequence, and the soul's own chosen lessons. This understanding did not trivialize pain. Rather, it exalted the courage of souls who, despite struggles, strove to love and learn. He saw that every tear shed on earth contributed to deeper compassion and understanding, forging bonds between souls. When a human comforted another in pain, they mirrored God's mercy. These acts of kindness were precious jewels in the cosmic treasury. No suffering was wasted. In time, all would be healed and redeemed. He perceived that in eternity, wounds became wisdom, scars turned into marks of honor. The soul carried lessons forward, using them to uplift others. In this grand design, nothing was meaningless. This realization flooded him with gratitude. He saw no reason to resent hardships he had faced. Instead, he was thankful that they had shaped him into someone capable of greater love and empathy. Now, seeing the panorama of existence from God's vantage, he praised the complexity and depth of the divine plan. With this understanding, he realized that even suffering was enveloped in God's love. It served as a crucial color in the grand painting of eternity, ensuring that souls would cherish joy, treasure each kindness, and strive ever closer to divine perfection. As David's communion with God deepened, he reflected on the treasures that would endure beyond death. He saw clearly that faith, hope, and love were not mere words, but potent forces shaping the soul's destiny. While faith connected souls to God, hope sustained them through trials, and love bound them together in eternity. He recognized these virtues as indestructible jewels. Unlike material wealth, which vanished, these treasures multiplied when shared. Faith opened the soul to divine guidance. Hope illuminated paths through darkness. Love transcended even death, forging eternal bonds. Though he no longer needed faith here, since he beheld God's truth directly, he cherished it as the bridge that had brought him this far. He understood why Scripture praised these virtues so highly. They were not abstract ideals, but essential tools for spiritual evolution. They guided souls through life's labyrinth, ensuring that no struggle was in vain. He realized that by nurturing faith, hope, and love, humans aligned with God's design, making themselves receptive to grace. He thanked God silently for granting humanity these guiding lights. He thought of those he left behind. Miriam, Jonathan, and his wife would face sadness, but if they held faith, hope, and love in their hearts, they would eventually understand his current peace. They would grow stronger and find meaning in their loss. In this divine presence, David understood he was not leaving these virtues behind. They had become part of him, woven into his soul's very fabric. They would continue to shape his eternal journey. He smiled, grateful for the simplicity and profundity of these truths. Now he knew that these spiritual treasures were the true inheritance of every soul, gifts from God to guide them home. In God's presence, David discovered a state of rest more profound than sleep. It was not inactivity, but perfect serenity. Knowledge flooded him effortlessly, not through study, but through direct insight. He understood that the afterlife was dynamic. Souls continued to learn, create, and share. He perceived that he could explore this infinite realm, converse with wise souls, investigate mysteries of creation, or simply bask in divine love. There was no rush. Eternity did not demand haste. Instead, it offered freedom. He could choose what paths to follow, what realms to visit, always guided by love and curiosity. This rest allowed his soul to breathe. Earthly life often felt hurried. Here, the concept of hurry was foreign. He embraced this timeless state. He remembered Jesus' words, "Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest." Now he understood them fully. The rest was not just cessation of labor, but a return to the soul's natural harmony. In this peace, David felt more alive than ever. He saw Earth's struggles from a new angle. Though difficult, they refined the soul so that when it returned to this realm, it appreciated the depth and beauty of eternal existence. Without contrast, he realized, understanding would be shallow. He also realized he could send reassurance back to Earth, not in words, but in subtle influences, a comforting thought in a loved one's mind, a gentle intuition to guide them, a warmth felt during prayer. Though he could not directly alter their free will, he could offer spiritual support. With each passing moment, if one could still speak of moments, he felt more at home. He prepared to delve deeper into knowledge, secure in the truth that his soul was safe, cherished, and free forever. In a serene lull, David's awareness stretched across time and space. He perceived subtle connections leading back to Earth, glimpsing his loved ones' futures, not as fixed destinies, but as fluid potentials. He saw Miriam finding comfort in her faith, discovering a more profound spirituality after her father's passing. Jonathan, though he grieved, would eventually channel his sorrow into art, painting canvases that stirred hearts. His wife would hold family gatherings, recalling David's kindness and stories that kept his memory alive. He smiled, grateful that their paths would continue to unfold meaningfully. He saw how their lives, like his own, were learning experiences. Each would face their share of joys and challenges, growing wiser, gentler. He wished he could embrace them and say, "I am proud of you." But he knew that his silent blessings, carried on currents of grace, would reach them in subtle ways. He observed that Earth itself continued evolving. Humanity struggled, learned, forgot, and remembered the truth of love. Over centuries, progress emerged, people rose against injustice, discovered compassion, reached across divides. Though the world seemed chaotic, he now saw God's patient hand guiding souls toward understanding. This reassurance comforted him. He realized that while he was no longer physically present in their lives, his spiritual legacy persisted. His love for them was immortal, woven into the grand tapestry. He prayed they would sense his presence in quiet moments, the scent of fresh bread evoking childhood memories, a particular bird's song reminding them of a day they shared. Knowing their futures were cradled by divine love, he rested in peace. He understood that true inheritance was not wealth but love, faith, hope, and the wisdom gained through living. And these gifts would guide his family onward until they too found their way home. A gentle knowing filled David. He could watch over those he loved, not as a guardian angel, for he remained a soul in growth, but as a loving presence subtly guiding them. When they prayed, he could join his prayers with theirs, magnifying their hope. When they faced sorrow, he could radiate calm, helping them sense they were never alone. He realized this was how departed souls often influence the living, not by grand miracles, but through quiet nudges, a comforting memory surfacing at the right time, a subtle feeling of encouragement. This influence respected free will, never forcing choices, merely offering solace and insight. He recalled the times he had felt such presences in life, dreams that comforted him after losing friends, sudden clarity in moments of doubt. Now he knew these were not coincidences. The veil between worlds was thin, and love passed freely through it. He considered this duty a privilege. It allowed him to continue loving, to remain involved in the grand story of life. No one was truly isolated. Each soul could help others from beyond the veil, weaving connections across realms. This realization filled him with purpose. Though he dwelt in peace, he could still serve. Love was not static. It expressed itself in endless ways, from comforting the grieving to inspiring the hopeful. He felt deep gratitude that God allowed souls to remain active participants in the unfolding drama of creation. He focused his heart on his family, sending them a silent blessing. He imagined Miriam feeling warmth in her chest, Jonathan smiling as a new idea came to him, his wife finding a surprising calm while watching the sunset. These gentle influences would remind them that love transcends all boundaries, including the boundary of death. Time did not exist here as it did on earth. Yet David sensed a harmonious progression. He embraced his eternal home. No longer did he feel confusion, fear, or longing. Everything he sought was here. In God's presence, he had integrated all lessons, reconciled regrets, and understood the ultimate purpose of life. His being vibrated with gratitude. He thanked God for creating a universe where souls could learn, love, and find their way home. He thanked the angels and guides who had helped him, the family and friends who had shared his earthly journey, and the countless souls who had influenced him, known or unknown. This acceptance formed a gentle completion. He was free from any need to return or prove himself. He simply was, an expression of divine love, radiating goodwill. From this vantage, eternity stretched ahead, not as endless monotony, but as infinite potential. He could explore cosmic mysteries, learn new facets of divine creativity, and continue evolving. He sensed that his journey, while culminating in this profound unity, was not an endpoint but a gateway to higher realms of understanding. Yet no urgency pressed upon him. He could rest in the present moment, savoring the fullness of God's love. He recognized that one day, his family would join him here. They would be welcomed with the same gentle grace. Meanwhile, their earthly lives would unfold as they learned their lessons, found meaning in challenges, and deepened their capacity for love. With this serene acceptance, David embraced his eternal nature. He was home, truly home, In a place beyond dreams and fear, he felt a subtle chorus of angelic voices singing softly, a hymn of love and unity echoing through his soul. He joined their silent music, adding his voice to the eternal song. Drifting deeper into this peace, David witnessed a grand cosmic harmony. He saw how every soul was a note in a symphony conducted by God's hand. Together, these notes formed chords of compassion, melodies of hope, and harmonies of love. Nothing was dissonant forever. Even discordant notes found resolution. He observed patterns that spanned galaxies and ages. Stars ignited. Civilizations rose and fell. Souls journeyed through life after life, all contributing to the grand masterpiece. He realized that all existence, physical and spiritual, was orchestrated toward greater understanding and unity. The universe was not static. It evolved as souls matured. In this vision, he grasped how souls helped each other, how every act of kindness on earth sent ripples through the cosmos, influencing realms unseen. The smallest good deed played a vital role. Echoing through eternity, he understood why humility and service were virtues. Each soul's growth uplifted all others. This cosmic perspective dissolved any lingering sense of separateness. He was both himself and part of a collective whole. He saw that human concepts like race, nationality, creed were temporary costumes souls wore for one lifetime. Beneath them, all were children of the same divine parent. He rejoiced in this knowledge. It validated everything he had learned, that love was supreme, that every soul mattered, that unity was the ultimate truth. The universe was a cathedral of life, with God's presence illuminating every corridor. Filled with reverence, he let this vision settle into his essence. He embraced the cosmic harmony as his own heartbeat. He now carried within him the certainty that all would eventually come together in divine oneness. Thus fortified, he prepared for the final step of his journey, complete union with the source of all being. Now David stood at the brink of final surrender. He had tasted divine love, merged with understanding, and embraced eternal truths. Yet one mystery remained: the complete union with God, where no sense of separateness persisted. Here, language fails, for the human mind cannot conceive this state. He felt God's love drawing him closer, like a tide carrying him effortlessly into a boundless ocean. He released all last traces of individuality as something separate from God. Not that he ceased to exist, but that he existed wholly within God, like a drop returning to the infinite sea. In this union, all boundaries vanished. He was at once himself and the divine, distinct yet indistinguishable. This was the ultimate homecoming, the purpose of every soul's long journey, to realize its oneness with the Creator. In that union, all questions dissolved into truth, all longing into fulfillment, all fear into perfect love. The universe sang in him, through him, as him, and God's voice harmonized with every fiber of creation. He understood that no one is truly lost or alone, that in the end, every soul finds its way back. The lessons of life, the struggles, the joys, were steps on a path leading here. Death was not an end, but a return. Love never dies. And he now knew that love was God. He had become a living part of that endless love. In silence and light, he surrendered completely, becoming one with the divine source. No separation remained. Peace beyond peace, joy beyond joy, love beyond love. He experienced them all as a unified reality. Thus ended his journey and began his eternity, immersed in the heart of God. David's journey teaches us that love and connection are the true treasures we carry beyond this life. As we reflect on his story, think about the bonds you cherish. If this video moved you, please like it, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more stories that touch the heart and soul. And don't forget to comment below. What legacy of love are you building? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, cherish every moment.